Would you like to know more?
Oh, good. Charlie's reference worked. You wanted to know more?
Well, apparently people are here listening, watching them. You know, yeah, maybe it did.
If you've got no idea what we're talking about, then go back and listen to or watch part 1 of Starship Troopers Love Fest.
Yeah.
For those who've already done so, enjoy what's coming up.
Yeah, nothing really to add. Let's jump back in. Michael Ironside, who plays the school teacher. For me, he's one of those actors where whenever he's in things, I feel like, right, yeah, this is gonna be a good little bit. This
could be a bad film, but he's gonna be great. Like, yeah,
Total Recall.
Yeah,
the original one.
Yeah,
he's a shit in that, but he's just absolutely tearing it apart in those scenes.
Very watchable. Very watchable.
He's really, really good. And actually, just thinking about that, he's in Total Recall, and also the cowardly lieutenant who's hiding in the cupboard. He's the body of Guato, is it?
Yeah, he's the leader of the resistance. And Dean Norris, who is the base commander in boot camp, he's the guy with the funny face in Total Recall. One of the mutants.
Is he?
He's in Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Oh God, of course he is.
Paul Verhoeven's got a stable of actors he likes to use. He trusts.
Yeah, but how weird is it when he's doing that? When he's talking about when they're going to flog Rico because of the a Marine died during a live firing, whatever. Yeah. But when he stood there, he's got this like, I'll try and get a picture and throw it up now. But he stood there in this weird fitting, like the way he stood. It's just before the scene happened and it went on to him, something twigged in the back of my mind, and I think that child brain jumped in. I was like, you remember something weird about this scene? And it popped up, and he's very triangular in it, like he's been wedged into the ground or something.
Do you know who else is in it as well? Because there's a great supporting cast. Clancy Brown, who does loads of animated stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Who does Squidward. No, sorry, Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob.
Highlander, he plays the Gorgon. Is it Gorgon?
Is it? Oh, right, okay. We'll have to rewatch that at some point then.
yeah. But he's a physical force in anything because of his stature, but his voice is great, and there's a really nice three person sort of bit when the asteroids hit Earth. And Rico has already quit, but tries to come back in. And his boss is like, "You've already signed a paper. It's already been processed. It won't even be legal." And then Clancy Brown picks up the paper and is this your signature? And Rico doesn't get it, and he goes, "Yes, sir." And then he just looks at him like, turns his back like, "It's behind my back. I didn't see shit, me."
Yeah.
He goes, "Doesn't look like mine. I don't accept it," and chucks it out.
Yeah.
And then the really weird thing, and I don't know if this is like a director's choice on it, but that's quite a cute little interaction. Rico then like smiles and laughs, and the first thing that popped into my mind is like, your mum and dad are dead. You've just found out your parents are dead, and you're already going, that was funny with the old contract thing. Everyone I know's dead. I can't even go home if I wanted to. It doesn't exist. Yeah,
exactly. It's quite a dour film. When you scratch the surface, the music's bombastic and it's all about the military getting a win and let's go wipe out this race of alien insects. But again, you scratch the surface a little bit and you go, this is a really depressing film.
Yeah.
We mentioned before, Carmen, the fact that him and Rico...
She's a bitch.
The fact that it's him and Rico at the end, and Neil Patrick Harris's character, who basically goes full fascist by the end. And he's the most
Nazi sort of looking when they turn up on. And if you actually look, he's had his eyes darkened around him so they look more sunk or sunken. Yeah. Or they've sunk his eyes. Good England.
Yeah.
When he walks in, but it's very sort of Nazi-esque sort of look.
And that's where, again, if you don't get it by that point, it's on you.
Yeah. And that's the moment he turns up looking clear. Like that, talking about how essentially he'd risked Rico and all those people.
He calculated it. He knew. He says like, we needed to find out if the bugs would do a thing. So we knew the survival rates were pretty low, but it's kind of like, oh, okay, this again, another thing of this is the reality of it. You think this is pro-military and pro-fascism or whatever, but you're like, no, it's very clearly saying, look how cold and calculated war is and the reality of it. The fact that it's those three left at the end, and it's this almost fun moment of, we're all back together again, it's just like high school, and then like you say, you take a moment and you go, this has been the most grim years of their lives. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, they literally meet back up at the funeral of one of their, not even a member of the team, someone else they went to high school with.
Yeah. And the one who Rico should have been with in Dizzy. Because she's another, there's quite a toxic relationship between her and Rico, and the fact that I think some people have said that she's almost stalking him, and then you could say, at what point is it romantic, at what point is it quite an unhealthy obsession, whatever. Take all that out of it. She as a character, as an actor, her performance, she seems a little bit more clued up than everyone. She's a little bit funnier, a little bit wittier, a little bit smarter, and she's just got a bit of soul. She's not as like vapid and dead behind the eyes as some of the, even maybe just as the actors, not to insult them. Again, it's probably intentionally so to a large degree. And then it's like, and then, you know, spoiler alert, you know, she's gone, and you're like, oh. Every time the film builds up a bit, you go, oh, it hurts.
Yeah. But you know what got me, even as a kid, and again, it did get me as an adult, it's some of the sort of more seemingly throwaway lines, which could be whole stories themselves. There's a girl in it. She's got really, really super short red, I think it might be dyed hair, and they're all talking about why they've joined up. Yeah. And she just says, I want to have a baby. And if you sign up to the army or the military in any way and you help out in the war, you get instant citizenship. Yeah. And she says, I want to have a baby. And if you're a citizen, it's a lot easier to get a license. It's like, oh, right, okay, so that gives us it's a really throwaway line. They never question her on it, again, because obviously they live in that world, so they know that that's a thing. So why would you turn around and go, oh, that thing I know about, I'm going to question you about it for the camera at home. And they just move off it, but it gives us an insight into this world that they live in is very different from ours. You need a license to have a baby. I mean, you can make the argument that maybe some people should be made to get a license in the world we live in.
There's loads of little bits of world building in the, again, throwaway lines where it's the way it's set up and positioned is almost like middle America, you know, patriotic, red, white and blue, like all American families. And then you find out they are actually in South America. They're in Buenos Aires, and it's actually a world government. And then you start to go, oh, so at this point, the globe is just like a homogenized society. At this point, presumably, every nationality and race and whatever is all just one thing. You go into those, like you said, that throwaway line about the citizenship, and there's so much. There's a line at the start where Michael Ironside, when he's teaching, talks about how the Federation started. And he talks about something like the Veterans Uprising or the Veterans Rebellion. And I think there was a military takeover, or like the way it reads, or the way it sounded when I watched it. It sounds like there was some kind of uprising of either veterans or militaries who then took over, and that's the world they're in. At this point, obviously, it's all pretty settled. There's no one seemingly resisting that. The society seems to work really well, which is like, wow, okay, this is, again, scratch the surface. Don't take it for face value. The whole time, we just keep going back to Rico just drawing love bubbles and sending messages to the... And you're like, this is great. For me,
it is, but I'm really... I found it difficult to watch that scene in the way it was meant, because he's not 17. Like, he looks like he'd have a 17-year-old son. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, obviously, like, it's very, very, it's super rare that anything is ever filmed in screen order. You know, you swap and change back and forward depending on schedules, lighting, availability, all sorts of stuff. And it's almost, I looked at it, it's like, I feel like in certain scenes he looked younger than he did at the beginning. Like, it almost like you could have filmed that beginning scene at the end of it where it's like, oh, he's got some city years on him there. Like, he's aged a bit. I don't mean he doesn't look, I'm not like shitting on the guy, like, oh, he looks really old. It's like, he doesn't look 17.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it? They've cast people who are clearly...
You know what, when I was 17... girls did not look like Denise Richards in school. That's a fact. It just they didn't.
I also wonder, is that another intentional choice? Because when you think of the things it's almost parodying, like Beverly Hills 90210 and things like that, or like the OC and other things, these really cheesy, over the top, everyone's a model, and even the ones who aren't classically good looking models, they're so charismatic. It's like, you've still got film star quality, but you're not a normal guy.
Yeah.
The girl next door, it's like, no, she's a supermodel. They do that same thing where there's so many teen and school dramas out there like those, where it's like they're all mid-20s, bordering on 30. They're all in their peak physical, and presumably again because they're the most good-looking and the most confident, whatever. But again, that's why I struggle with things like that, where I go, oh, this is so out of it. And again, intentionally so, probably for this. Yeah,
there's a weird thing with the camera shots, not the camera shot, the in film videoing of like the press bits and stuff,
the propaganda shots.
Yeah, when they see like the bodies on the ground, like this, like the first time you see them, they almost look like store-bought mannequins. Like some of them are so bad. But then later on, when they go to the base in the middle of nowhere and there's the hole in the ground and all that, them walking around, like a guy with his head split open, and it looks fantastic. And I was looking at it going, I don't know if it's just not landed correctly. But if you could do that in that scene, why is there like a clearly plastic, Halloween dummy being used earlier on in the film? Like, and is that a choice that,
it's the propaganda team have set it up to be a certain way. Or
that, when you watch something on TV, because essentially we could be at home watching these propaganda videos, but nothing really seems very real. If you make the real dead body look fake, it kind of like, look at all this death. It's like, yeah, but it's not real death. I'm not worried about not going to war because it's not real death. And then when you see death and our like protagonist in the scene with them, it's like, oh wow, it's well more gruesome than this. This guy's got half his head missing. Yeah, like maybe that's what it was.
I would say this is one of those films that I think the theme is, if it seems wrong or a bad choice, it's not. I'd argue it's 99% sure it's an intentional choice. Like you say, straight away, as soon as you scratch that layer a little bit, you go, oh yeah, this does buy in. This does help the theme of the film and what the director's trying to say. Yeah. And I think we'd quickly spoke before we started recording. I think we both agree there maybe wasn't enough of the propaganda stuff, or maybe that.
Yeah.
I think the first, maybe third or first half of the film, there's. I don't know. I've not looked at times and how long the minutes or whatever, but it feels like there's a bit more of that at the start to be really obviously going. When it's like, the only good bug's a dead bug, and it's like the guy like turns to the thing like really dramatic, and it's so over the top. And then like the school teacher like crying in excitement with the kids stepping on cockroaches when they go to war. But there's also a really throwaway one where they talk about a Mormon and this basically all starts, it's humanity's fault. We're meant to be like all against the bugs. There's a Mormon colony that just goes to a planet that they know the bugs are on. The bugs kill them, and they throw away like, oh, and the Mormons just went without the license permission, and anyway, and then in the next news, and again, very intentional, clearly very much to say the media in this federation isn't interested in giving you. It even goes into the fake news stuff. They're not interested in giving you the reality really of what happened. They'll tell you what happened, but there's clearly an agenda in the way they're positioning it.
You could actually look at it on on maybe a more intellectual level and go, well, if this is the media, but then there's a click to basically sign up to the army, you could say, is it a state-sponsored media that's the only thing that exists? So
I think that's the thing. Yeah.
And then I read something the other day about certain countries that have, comparing like their economic growth to how long they've been at war in the last 100 years. This is definitely not the channel where we're going to talk about that, but it was just an interesting thing that I was reading the other day. Within this movie, I think you could look at it and go, they talk about having nukes. You see the mini nukes that Rico apparently is the only one who can shoot. Rico, nuke this thing. Where's Rico? Come on, Rico. And he's walking up and someone else preps it for him. He don't even prep his own fucking nuke, this guy. Whatever. Why don't they just nuke it from space? The planet.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, is it the whole... The planet is... Earth at this moment is so geared towards war that they just need some sort of war to galvanize the globe and to justify the money that's being spent. And war creates money creates, and it's like almost like this whole circle going off.
It's that conveyor belt of the society of citizens, veterans, new blood.
Because again, I thought I thought it was in the film, but maybe I made it up. You might correct me now, and I hope you do. I thought there was a throwaway line explaining why they couldn't just nuke them and they had to go to the planet.
Yeah, so I
was looking out for it when I watched it. I didn't hear it.
There's a line about Rico asks them to nuke the planet where the Roughnecks, where the bugs have set a trap for them. So I mean, at that point, it's one of the outlying planets.
Yeah.
The first time they do it, they put it down to just bad intelligence and the fact that we just underestimated, it was the arrogance of the society of, we'll just throw all our troops on the planet and we'll just shoot all the bugs and it'll be done. Yeah. And they basically talk about, no, you got it so wrong. This is an organised society of bugs that, they were purposely shooting the plasma up because they knew it'd stop, air support coming down and it'd make it harder to get in and out and whatever. And then when they start going to the outer planets, we then find out they're not willing to just nuke them because Neil Patrick Harris says in one of the film scenes, oh yeah, we already had an idea that there's probably some brain bugs down there controlling it and we need to know. Yeah. So they're just basically saying, oh, we'll just send troops down. Best case scenario, they wipe out the bugs on the planet and we move on to the next one and find a brain bug. Or worst case, we sacrifice them, we lose all the troops, but we know, oh yeah, there's definitely a bug controlling it.
Yeah, I think as an audience, you've got to start thinking more about the powers that be in this movie. Probably aren't really that focused on destroying the bugs and saving Earth. They might be playing a different game of trying to, what can we learn from them? What can we gain? Because
they literally say that, don't they? They say they want to.
Oh no, I mean further, not just about what can we gain from them in order to defeat them, but what can we like almost mine from them, because realistically, why would you send all those people when you could? You've obviously got the technology to send spaceships all the way over there. Why wouldn't you just completely destroy the whole planet? There's a tiny little thing at the end where they capture the brain bug. That's you find out that's the Neil Patrick Harris mission that they want to do. Yeah. But none of the main characters do. Yeah. It's Private Zim. Yeah. Like and you don't even, it's off screen.
Yeah, it's the drill instructor who set up at the start of the film. He wants combat, and he says basically, push yourself down to private, otherwise you're not staying here. You know, we need you to train the next generation. He's obviously they might make reference. He's like a decorated veteran. He's like a really good soldier, and that's why they want him training people. Yeah. It is funny. There's a lot of set up and misdirection with things like with that exact moment, like the bombastic music, the camera starts to zoom into Rico, and Neil Patrick Harris is basically saying, we'll look back on this day and we'll always remember, it wasn't just this or this.
It wasn't the technology. It wasn't leaders.
It was an instructor named Zim, and they're just like, oh, cool, all right, there's Zim. Yeah, and it's funny again. It's another bittersweet thing. The characters that are left alive, you'd argue, are the most two-dimensional, bought into the machine. It's almost like anyone with humanity within the film is punished and killed. And is that another way to say this society only values, the people who buy into the machine and are part of it? And then at the end, Rico makes a decision to go and to save Carmen. He makes a decision based on humanity and on love. He doesn't get the credit for finding the brain bug, even though they're the ones who say, I think as they're backing out, Jake Busey says, like, we've spotted the brain bug, it's going west at this point. So obviously at that point, the Roughnecks have gone round and got it, but it's like, oh, you made a decision to save someone. Sorry, you don't get the credit now.
Well, then, yeah.
It's punishes and it stamps
but we are
out
lucky, aren't we, that the person who managed to capture the brain bug is a character that we already knew. Again, going back to that whole, 90210 sort of, is this, and this is why I get the feeling like, is it a film within a film? Because it's like, oh, luckily, it's one of our mates in a universe of like, millions of miles away from Earth on multiple planets. It turns out the person who saved the day or captured the brain bug was someone we knew already. Like,
it was a really likeable character. Great.
Yeah, one of the 7 people that we know of did it.
And again, I think maybe it's also part of that rewarding people who buy into the system, because it's not even like the new recruits. Like they talk about the we mentioned when they cast those people who are clearly actually kids, they're actually age relevant, possibly even a little bit younger. It's the person who's rewarded is the guy who has sacrificed a safe position, still helping the war machine and still arguably having a positive impact, because he's basically going to help young people survive what's coming. They've rewarded him because he said, no, I just want to go fight. I just want to get on the front line and shoot stuff. And again, he's rewarded now as he'll now be known in the history of their society as, the guy who found the first, confirmed we've got the first brain bug. It's
turn the tide of the war.
These are all things that I can imagine somebody saying it's why they don't like the film, but again, you just don't get it. You can get it and go, oh, I still don't like it. It's still a bit grim. I'm not going to stick it on every week because it's harrowing.
I mean, if I'm honest, it wasn't the easiest watch for me, but I definitely, there's some parts in it that I really didn't like. There were some parts in it that I really loved, and they just kind of fell a little bit short of what you can definitely see. If you like film, you like TV, you like storytelling, you can see those moments where it's like, oh, it just didn't quite stick the landing. But I like the idea behind it. But a couple of things before I've got very little, if anything, left to say, except 2 things that were unintentionally fucking hilarious for me. One of them comes when where Carmen, they lose the communications array off the top of the ship by the asteroid, and they can't tell them that it's coming towards Earth. Which is funny because the asteroid that kills all those people on Earth that makes Rico need to stay in the army was the same asteroid that Carmen, the girl, the only pilot he knows, it's her ship that. So it's a very small universe where only 4 people are. In order to move evasive maneuvers to get out of the way of that asteroid, that emergency panel comes up that she has to break the glass of and press, and it's like, I don't think that's what they have on ships. Like, is someone in the back going, fucking, I've got to replace that piece of glass now every time she wants to do an like, that's like break glass in as a non trained person in, like, a fire evacuation or something would break the glass. But I can't imagine, like, evasive maneuvers every time. It's like, I can't move for glass on the floor now. It's just all the time. Which I thought was hilarious. Again, that does feel. Maybe I'm giving him more credit here now, but I'm not afraid to give Paul Verhoeven as much credit as possible.
That does feel again intentional, over the top of like we're meant to watch. He's almost saying to people who aren't going to like this film, I'm going to make sure you don't get it if you're not going to look deep, because I'm going to make this a really over the top, exciting action film, and that's all you're going to see, and you're going to go, oh, and it's like, oh, come on. And my other funny moment, there's definitely no subtext or anything about it. It's just me hearing it wrong. So Denise Richards' Carmen character talks about how she, that the douche pilot who she's with. He notices that there's the way that they're going in space is different to what he programmed it is. And she goes, no, I've done it on purpose. And the line is, you think you can lick my navs, as in my navigation.
But as a Brit, we don't have like, lick as in mean, oh, you think you can lick that, as in you think you can be better than that. That's not in our sort of vocabulary.
Yeah.
So when someone says lick, we think the action of
what
licking.
it actually means.
And you know what's really close to navs? Nads. So Denise Richards changed the course of the ship, and he turns around and thinks, "Well, you think you can lick my nads?" It's like I don't think she escalated it to that point, mate. I mean, we know she's a bitch, but like, I don't think she's changing.
She's
licking nads.
She's such an unlikable character.
She probably did lick his nads.
It's funny, isn't it? Do you know what? It's Neil Patrick Harris is really good as the douchey, smarmy, know-it-all guy who does know it all, and you find out to a horrifying degree. But they almost should have cast someone less likeable, because Denise Richards' character Carmen is clearly meant to not be likeable. On the surface, she's the pretty prom queen, whatever.
Yeah. She's ticking all that sort of 90s, heroine.
Really pretty, really smart, really capable. You're meant to like her, but she's just horrible. She doesn't actually care.
No.
Rico, he still needs a bit of humanity because he's the centre point of the film. And I think Casper Van Dien, it's almost like a bit of a running joke that he's rubbish, but it's like, no, he's cast as a certain thing.
Yeah, I like him in it. Yeah.
The boyish good looks, the dumb job.
Boyish?
But, this all-American Boy Scout, and it works. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's perfect in it. And he might not, he's not going to do a Daniel Day-Lewis and go all out and get a gritty Oscar. But he knows what he's doing. He's almost... The joke's not on him in this film. I think when you see him in interviews...
Yeah.
On, he's got a life in the convention circuit. It's
he's like his expense.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to get an Oscar for it, but I loved it, and great. But there is a moment right at the start where he shows a little bit of humanity, and again, it's just kind of squashed. I think it's the same opening scene where they're in the classroom, and he's talking about Michael Ironside's talking about when they dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima. And he literally says something like, direct action or direct violence has always been the most effective outcome, or basically saying, if you've got a problem,
nuke it.
And you can use violence, nuke it. And you see him start to be like, he says like, do you agree? And he's kind of like, I don't really know if I buy into that. And then by the end of the film, he's just, come on, you apes, you want to live forever?
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay!
Yeah. And again,
definitely.
It's all intentional. It's all meant to say, look at this. This guy could have had a great life. He came from a wealthy family.
He could have been on holiday, but then how many times would he have... the holiday destination that he would have literally have been at would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what it's called. It's something beach in it.
Dagobah Beach or something like that. Yeah.
The Dagobah system? The Dagobah system? No.
Just one thing, I don't know if you felt the same. I don't know if it was like certain choices with maybe fonts on computer systems or something. This kind of felt like it could fit into the same universe as the 80s Total Recall. There was certain...
There
was designs of certain buildings where it was very concrete and industrial and quite hard. There was just something about it where... I know that maybe in terms of knowledge of aliens it wouldn't work, or maybe it would have to be that Total Recall is also set before Starship Troopers chronologically or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there was something about it where it had the feel of, it had the feel of being in that world, or at least like a shared cinematic universe, or something.
Yeah,
a bit like certain
that.
Tarantino films. There's certain ones which you can literally say, oh, that character's with that character, but there's certain ones where it just has his stamp on it. Or
maybe Starship Troopers is the action film that the characters from Total Recall would watch.
Amazing. That's it.
Done it.
We've solved it.
You're welcome.
Long story short, Starship Troopers is a good film, and if you don't like it, you just don't get it. No, you're allowed to not like it. I'll just, think less.
But I definitely think I definitely think that there's more to to the surface of Starship Troopers. Like even the name of it sounds a bit sort of like woohoo, Starship Trooper. Like, you know, there's definitely more to it, and I think, fortunately or unfortunately, a little bit of research actually can pull some really good little gems out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's another example as well of Verhoeven taking. It's not quite as classic as what Total Recall is based on, but taking like a classic sci-fi novel and just doing something totally different with it, and basically saying, I'm not going to adapt the story. I'm going to take some of the themes, and I'm basically going to make a decision about it and make a point about it. Because I think the book, I think it's a trilogy, Starship Troopers. I think like the aliens talk, and they're a bit more. I think they are still technically insectoid, but I think they're like almost bipedal, almost humanoid looking. Okay. And they talk, and in this, it's just full on. No, they're just inhumane monsters, and it just further buys into what he's trying to do. Yeah, I love it.
I assume as much.
What's the next hashtag with DRH then?
So again, this is something that popped up. I think it might be on Amazon Prime. I'm hoping if people like who are listening, I think like the idea of possibly watching something that we've said about. That's a way to watch it. We're gonna pick things that I know you've got access to, and vice versa, and a lot of people will. Point Break, the original Point Break.
Yes, I'm up for this.
Yeah, it popped up, and it's got Swayze and Keanu Reeves on it, and I was like, this is again similar to They Live. I've not seen that since I was a little kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm imagining the bit in the sand where he's rolling and shooting and all sorts of stuff. But that's my with hashtag with DRH is Point Break.
Awesome. Anybody at home watching or listening, watch it with us. Watch it before the next pod. Tag us at DRH Pod and use the hashtag with DRH. For any of our watch-alongs, play-alongs, like you say, we'll maybe dip into other mediums, but I think for now I'm enjoying the excuse to watch good films, or films we've at least got opinions on or thoughts on. We're going to revisit. Anything else you want to add, Charlie?
Yeah, guys, remember, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Bye.
Bye. Yippee-ki-yay! Woohoo! Starship Troopers!